Garrett Crochet has pitched like an ace for the Boston Red Sox so far, but how good has he truly been? More on today's Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed, and it's free. So you might as well just continue to tune in because who doesn't like free stuff? And also, we're talking Red Sox. So continue to tune in because Locked On is your team every single day. I'm sorry for the unfamiliar backgrounds here the last couple days that I have been performing in front of. I am traveling right now for my sister's grad school graduation. So just having to kind of record wherever I can find the space. But I will be back home, rest assured, on Thursday. So you will see my all too familiar Red Sox stuff in the background on the wall behind me. But Garrett Crochet has been everything the Red Sox really could ask for so far since they brought him to Boston and since extending him. And it's just been a whirlwind, but he has been one of the positive assets of the Red Sox pitching staff right now, and a pitching staff that's been undoubtedly struggling a lot this year. So how good has Garrett Crochet truly been? I'm going to be talking about that on today's show, as well as talking about the big win to start the series against the Mets last night, as well as the call-up of Nick Burdi, getting to know him, what he's about. He's a pitcher that the Red Sox called up recently, so I'm going to be giving you a little more background on him. So obviously, I'm dropping episodes a little bit later as of the last couple of days, but we'll get back to that normal schedule, like I said, when I get back from this trip for my sister's graduation. So how good has Garrett Crochet truly been? So we knew going into this whole situation with acquiring Crochet that he was going to be a guy that was going to give the Red Sox what they needed in terms of a reliable starting pitcher. Now, we all knew that he was capable of being the Red Sox ace, but of course there were question marks surrounding him, what for sure he was going to give us because of the fact that he had been experiencing injury and a new environment and not really being 100% sure if he was going to be able to give us ace caliber stuff. But not only has he been giving us ace caliber stuff, but he's been doing it pretty consistently all season long. He's certainly finding a groove with the Boston Red Sox and truly looking like an early Cy Young favorite. He's undoubtedly been the Red Sox best starter so far this season and one of the best in the league. At the same time, he hasn't looked quite as dominant as he did prior to arriving in Boston. His ERA through 10 starts is exactly 2, though he has struggled some innings and outings, and that a lot has to do with his command being a little bit off. On Friday night against Atlanta, he put together one of his best starts this season, allowing 2 runs over the course of 7 innings. The 2 runs came via back-to-back home runs in the second inning, both off of his four-seam fastball. Now, of course, he hasn't been bad prior to Friday start at all. He's been objectively really good and is one of the favorites currently to win the Cy Young Award, but it's more that he hasn't always looked in control every start, so to speak. But on Friday, he was exactly that. And yes, he gave up the back-to-back homers, but the Red Sox offense really couldn't get going that night. His four-seam fastball, his cutter, his sweeper, his sinker, and his changeup, that is the arsenal of pitches that he relies on. Those are the pitches that he kind of sprinkles throughout the course of a start. So having 5 pitches that you can go to makes you a solid starter. That's going to be something that gets him very far in this league, and that's why he's been able to be so successful, is because he can lean on any of those pitches. The changeup, he threw a little bit during the game versus the Braves, that was a pitch that was outside the strike zone a lot, so he wasn't really seeing that pitch as well. But as far as the four-seamer, the cutter, and the sweeper and sinker go, he planted a lot of those pitches in the strike zone. So he had more control in this outing than we have seen from him in some outings prior. This command is nearly perfect. Fastballs at the top of the zone, cutters and sweepers to the glove side, and sinkers on the arm side. Aside from the home runs, he didn't allow a single extra base hit. The only hits he allowed were singles, a few of which were some unfortunate batted ball luck. So he really had overall a pretty generational start. So I do want to take a look at his fastball a little bit, because in 2024, his fastball and cutter combined for 82% of his pitches. His four-seamer has taken some steps back in the early part of 2025. It's now a little bit more hittable than it was before. The biggest change is mechanical. His extension is down from 7.2 inches to 6.7 inches, and the velocity has also fallen about a tick and a half, although it has ticked back up over his last few starts. He's also been in the zone with the pitch slightly less, but again, he seems to have clicked mechanically, and his command has been greatly improved over his last couple starts. So we can only hope that that continues. With decreased extension, command becomes more important, but Crochet seems to have found a rhythm with the pitch. Ideally, that extension would come back, but it's still a well above average pitch as is. Overall, the fastball hasn't been as dominant this year as it was in 2024, but it has started to come back to life. So hopefully he can continue that moving forward. So when you look at his pitch arsenal, I mean, there's no reason to believe that he's going to regress at all, because if you have that mix of pitches, you're going to be able to fool opposing hitters. So that's something that is going to help him be successful moving forward regardless. But basically, what extension means is that it quantifies exactly how much closer a pitcher's release point is to home plate. Taller pitchers with long wingspans tend to have the longest extensions because their frames allow them to hold on to the ball for a greater distance before releasing it. So if his extension is down a little bit, it does have to do with where he is releasing the ball, and that's something that has given his fastball a little bit of trouble in 2025. His cutter is also a little different this season. He's not throwing it as hard, and he's throwing it in the zone more frequently. He's getting more strikes overall, but much fewer swinging strikes. He's also been locating that pitch more to the arm side rather than getting it on the glove side, although it's definitely not always intentional when he does that. Through his first handful of starts with the Red Sox, most of his misses were to the arm side, suggesting a mechanical error. So his cutter location is something that has changed a little bit. He was able to get that pitch a little bit more in the strike zone last year, as opposed to this year when it's fading a little bit closer to the inside of a right-handed batter and more to the outside of a left-handed batter. On Friday night, he dotted the glove side consistently, leading to 6 whiffs on 30 pitches. Arm side cutters aren't necessarily a bad thing, especially to right-handed hitters. They can return plenty of called strikes, and they're not easy to hit hard to the pull side. The glove side is where he'll get whiffs, though. The put-away rate, which is how often a 2-strike pitch results in a strikeout, has fallen from 29.1% to 19.5%. Arm side can work early in counts, but the glove side cutter is nearly unhittable if he establishes his fastball and will help him get efficiently navigating lineups. So if he can regain the extension overall that he had in 2024 and also continue to locate the cutter, he's one of the few starters in the league who could get by with just 2 pitches. The current fastball is hittable enough that he needs more, though. So fortunately, this is where I bring up the pitch arsenal. He's located that sweeper down and away as well. He has a sinker for lefties and a changeup for righties too. So he's able to throw more pitches, knowing that the fastball strength isn't where it was necessarily last year, and also knowing that if he can't locate the pitches as well, at least he has more pitches he can go to keep opposing hitters on their toes. So that's a good sign for Garrett Crochet. So when you look at overall, when it comes to what he throws, he's going to have to continue to keep up with the rate at which he's throwing a lot of those off-speed pitches to be able to keep getting hitters out, getting them to chase, getting them to swing and miss, getting them to hit a weak ground ball because they were looking for a different pitch. All of that stuff is going to benefit him in the long run. The fastball definitely is the biggest pitch to me that I would say still needs work, but he seems to be more in tune mechanically and is dictating at bats better than he was to start the season. So hopefully that only goes up from here. But this is the level he needs to be pitching at. His start on Friday night really gave me the confidence in Garrett Crochet moving forward to have a great shot at winning the Cy Young. He just needs to get a handle a little bit more on that fastball velo and location, making sure that he is executing that pitch the right way. And like Andrew Bailey always says, who likes to have his pitchers utilize their off-speed stuff more, maybe this is something that Crochet can work with easier and make the transition to, because maybe he feels like, okay, I don't feel as confident in my fastball right now, so I'll back off on using it for a little while until I can get back on track with it. And then it might more currently align with Andrew Bailey and what he is trying to get out of these pitchers. And obviously, I'm not a fan of Andrew Bailey in terms of the approach that he's using right now. I don't think that it works for everybody. I think there's certain things that can be translatable from pitcher to pitcher, but overall, you have to keep in mind a pitcher's strengths. And I don't think he's necessarily always great with catering to a pitcher's strengths, and instead just utilizing the same strategy for every pitcher on the team. So I would definitely be interested in seeing the adjustment that Crochet makes and seeing if he continues to push that fastball or if it's something that he leans back on a little bit because he has this wide arsenal of pitches that he can use. So we'll have to see what happens there. But coming up, the Red Sox took game 1 from the Mets. I'm going to be talking about what went well for Boston next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. It's really stressful to feel like you can't get a hold of your finances and keep track of what you're spending money on. And I truly have realized how much more money I could be saving than I have been ever since Monarch Money came into my life. So it truly is a game changer, especially for somebody like me who's trying to save up to have a family and go through all these other big life changes. Like my husband and I are trying to buy a new home. So recognizing financially what you're spending money on and where you could be cutting back is incredibly beneficial. And that's exactly what Monarch Money is here for. So I highly recommend you checking them out because it will absolutely be a lifesaver. The Red Sox won the opening game of the series against the Mets on Monday night with a 3-1 win after a very frustrating series against the Braves, in which we saw quite a few different things that went on. Rafael Devers hitting a walk-off in the second game, Rafael Devers hitting a grand slam in the series finale, but the pitching not being good, and just a mix of quite a few different things. Garrett Crochet throwing in the first game of that series and the Red Sox not being able to win because the offense couldn't get going. So this team has been incredibly inconsistent, but they did earn a much needed win against the Mets on Monday night. So some of the most notable things from that game: Jiren Duran and Carlos Narvaez each recorded 2 hits. Now, Carlos Narvaez has certainly been a guy who has been incredibly reliable for Boston this year, and he's been a pleasant surprise. I really like what I've seen from him offensively. We already knew going into the season that his defense was going to be good because that is what he's known for, is being a good defender. But offensively, we weren't really sure what he was going to bring to the table, but so far he's been hitting well also, and that has really brought an asset to this Red Sox team that is very much needed. And when you have a guy like Narvaez who is continuing to produce, it's hard to justify Connor Wong being the number 1 catcher. I truly think that Narvaez has kind of planted his reputation of being the better option as the number 1 guy. And I think, throughout the course of the rest of the season, the Red Sox might give him more playing time and a little bit less playing time to Wong because he's producing at a much higher rate than Wong is. Narvaez now has a 278 batting average, 346 on base percentage, and 443 slugging. So he's definitely going out there and putting together productive at-bats. Jiren Duran also had 2 hits in the leadoff spot, and he drove in a run too. That has been the key for the Red Sox this year, and a notable difference from last year is that Jiren Duran was producing at a vastly higher level last year than he is this year. He's at a 268 average with a 316 on base percentage and 421 slugging. Obviously, it hasn't been all bad, but he did go through a slump recently on offense, and he just hasn't been as consistent as he was last year. It doesn't take away from how much he brings to the game regardless, even if he's hitting at his best or if he's hitting at his worst. He still brings a lot of other things to the table, like his speed and his plus defense. So that's something that I still have really liked about him, even when he was slumping at the plate. But the biggest thing here is that he needs to get going more consistently, because when Duran is hitting, it seems like the rest of the team is hitting, and he kind of sets the tone for that, because as the leadoff hitter, that's what you do. I mean, if you are putting together some good at-bats in that game, you are giving your team a really good chance to win, because you have this tone that you're setting where, okay, we need to get on base so that we can win this game. And it's not that these guys aren't trying actively every game to give 100% and to find a way to get on base, but there's something to be said for the leadoff hitter kind of being that spark plug that if they are hitting well, everybody else in the lineup gets that motivation. So we definitely need more of that consistency from Jiren Duran. And another thing too was that the Red Sox pitchers took care of business. And we aren't always able to say that a lot, but Hunter Dobbins got the start on the hill, 4 2/3 innings, giving up 5 hits and 1 earned run while walking 1 and striking out 2. He threw 39 strikes over 66 pitches and now has an ERA of 3.62 on the season. I mean, I would have loved to see him go deeper into games. Not sure why he was pulled after 66 pitches. I would have definitely at least tried to let him get through the inning, because he was already at 4 2/3. Let him finish a complete 5 innings before taking him out. But obviously the Red Sox don't feel like he can be trusted as much on that looser leash, and feel like maybe there's a little bit of nervousness there and things to be concerned about when he faces a lineup a third time. So I would have liked to see him go a little bit deeper, but I really like the arsenal that Hunter Dobbins brings to the table. And it's getting to the point where you feel like when he's going to be out there, the Red Sox are going to be put in a good place to win the game. And that's a good feeling, because you don't get this with a lot of the Red Sox pitchers, but with him, you have this feeling of, okay, Dobbins is on the mound. Things are going to be okay. We have a good shot to win this game. And that was exactly my thought process, knowing he was starting the game, was, okay, this gives us a chance. And I really hope that the Red Sox consider keeping him around in the rotation, because he just makes this starting rotation better. And it's hard to justify sending him back down to AAA with how well he's been pitching when he's been up in the majors. So I'm really hoping the Red Sox can find a way to keep him in there, because the growth that we have seen from him and just the level of confidence that he portrays on the mound, you don't see often with players. So I'm really hoping that he gets to a point where he's a more permanent fixture in this Red Sox rotation, because I really truly feel like he can handle that. The Red Sox bullpen also took care of business. Justin Wilson came in and threw 1 inning, giving up 1 hit and no runs. He walked 1 and struck out 1 over the course of that time. Greg Weissert threw 1 inning, giving up 1 hit and no runs, while walking 1 and striking out 2. And then Justin Slayton, 1 1/3 innings, giving up 0 hits and 0 earned runs with no walks and 1 strikeout. And then Aroldis Chapman finished it by pitching an inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs, and with a strikeout. So notice I just rattled off a few names. Justin Wilson, Greg Weissert, Justin Slayton, and Aroldis Chapman. Those are all guys that the Red Sox have trusted in high leverage situations all season long. Those are guys that if the Red Sox are in a close game, they are calling upon to go out there and throw. And it hasn't always been smooth sailing in that regard for the Red Sox because they have had some of their high leverage guys struggle as of recently, like Garrett Whitlock, and Justin Slayton had a couple bumps in the road, but he seems to have turned things around a little bit more. Justin Wilson has overall been pretty reliable for this team as well, but obviously there are still some inconsistencies sometimes that exist with him and Greg Weissert. You don't really know what version of them you're going to get, but Justin Wilson has been a guy who could be trusted a little bit more so than some of the other guys in the pen this year. So I like that he gets used in high leverage because I think that is a role for him, and he's a guy who should stick in the high leverage spots until somebody else shows that they can handle that, or he starts to get really nervous or something and feels like, okay, I need to take a step back and not pitch in these high pressure of situations anymore. But overall, I really like what he brings to the table for this Boston Red Sox team. And I really like the fact that he's a guy who they have been able to use in high leverage. So if you take all those guys, Wilson, Weissert, Slayton, and Chapman, it was a 3-1 Red Sox lead. It wasn't like they were working with a lot of breathing room here for some of these high leverage guys. I mean, you really don't have much room for error there. And unfortunately, we have seen the little room for error not come to fruition for the Boston Red Sox because they have found a way to put themselves in that small percentage of making those errors on the mound when they have little breathing room to work with. And I was so worried that that was going to come into play during last night's game, but it didn't. And this brings up a point of the Red Sox and their high leverage guys. I've always talked about how you have your starters and then you have your relievers, and you have your relievers who can pitch in high leverage and your guys who can't really pitch in high leverage as much, that serve more as bridge guys. And the bridge guys are the ones who have consistently been a problem for the Red Sox this year. But then you added that some of their current high leverage arms had been struggling a little bit as of late. And then you say, okay, well, what should we do now? Because these guys that we normally rely on in these high leverage situations aren't performing to the level that we need them to perform at necessarily at this time. So then you have to think about, okay, well, do you replace them with other people who might be a better fit? Do you give them time to see if they can figure things out? And in this situation, the Red Sox obviously seem to take the route of going and saying, okay, we are going to give these guys time and let them try to figure things out. And hopefully Justin Slayton is now back on track. Aroldis Chapman typically pitches pretty well for this team. He has generally been on point and generally has been fine and reliable and has gotten the job done. But guys like Justin Wilson and Greg Weissert, I mean, those guys are a little bit dicey, and the Red Sox, I think, are hoping to continue to maximize what they can do and get versions of them that are going to perform well at the highest level. But it's a lot harder to say that with Weissert. Justin Wilson, I've definitely seen more dominant performances from him than I have from Weissert. But with both of those guys, I think that's still an ongoing conversation. And what's also really telling is that Garrett Whitlock never made an appearance in this game. That goes to show that the Red Sox obviously don't really trust him in high leverage right now, and he has been struggling in those situations as of late. So it makes sense for the Red Sox to say, okay, let's let him figure things out. He can throw in a low leverage situation and try to get himself back on track in terms of what's working for him with his arsenal and all of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox don't really consider him at this time a high leverage arm. So we're going to have to see how that plays out, and if he does end up back in those types of roles at some point, or if there's another pitcher who ends up replacing Garrett Whitlock in the high leverage spots and they keep him in low leverage where there's less pressure on him. But either way, I really hope he figures things out in whatever role he's in. And I was really happy for the Red Sox winning this game against the Mets because they really truly did need it. It can be absolutely exhausting when you're watching a team continue to be inconsistent and lose. They now stand at 24-25 on the season. Hopefully they can get back up to 500 soon. But speaking of getting back up to 500, somebody who's a relatively fresh face can maybe help the Red Sox get to that goal of getting back to 500. I'm going to be talking about him next. Just a quick reminder that you can subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on YouTube or any other podcast platform, wherever you get your podcasts. That will make sure that you don't miss any episodes, as I am here Monday through Friday talking all things Boston Red Sox. So if you want to stay caught up on that action, make sure you tune into the show on any podcast platform. Also, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night for your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Game Night is a great way to stay caught up on all of the games that took place that night. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely subscribe to that show and check it out right after this. Are the Red Sox going to keep up their winning ways? That has been a question that has been constantly asked all season long, because every time they have a really solid win, they then go and they drop 2 or 3 before they have their next good win. And it's frustrating because you want to feel like you want to get invested in this team, but at the same time, how could you get invested in this team if it's the same mistakes over and over and over again, and they aren't seemingly doing a whole lot to fix it? So they are trying to shake things up a little bit. They ended up promoting a pitcher from AAA in Nick Burdi. He is a guy who was pitching really well at that level. So then they call him up because they want to give him a shot because they feel like he's ready to compete at the highest level. You may have seen him just make 2 appearances against the Braves, holding them scoreless in 2 1/3 innings total, with help from Jiren Duran, who threw a dagger from left field to get Alex Verdugo at the plate after a terrible base running decision. But he had been tearing it up in Worcester after signing a minor league deal, having 13 bullpen appearances in high leverage situations and pitching to an 0.48 ERA. That is so minuscule. That equates to allowing just 1 run on the season, literally. Given the Red Sox dismal bullpen and 5-12 performance in 1-run games in 2025, it was definitely the right call to make, because eventually it just gets to be too old, the same mistakes taking place over and over again, and you feel like a change needs to be made. Prior to signing a minor league deal in February, he had bounced around the league, playing in 12 games for the Yankees after some stints with the Cubs and Pirates dating back to his debut in 2018. A product of Hinsdale, Illinois, which is about 20 minutes outside of Chicago. He grew up a Cubs fan, so everything must be downhill for here after having the chance to put in 3 innings of work for his favorite team. Because, I mean, come on, like, if you're pitching for your favorite team, that's probably the epitome of your career. He's a right-handed reliever, and the 32-year-old has primarily been used in that 3 to 5 out sweet spot throughout his career. He won't eat tons of innings, but he will give you a consistent outing. Also, he's 6'3", 225 pounds, so he looks pretty intimidating on the mound, which is definitely a plus for the Red Sox. He definitely can be good. He was a quad A arm last year when the Yankees called him up to deal with mounting injuries, which basically means a pitcher that they think highly of, that they feel like is one of their biggest weapons. He was also somebody who they could rely on, even though he somewhat got lucky for them. He pitched to a sub-2 ERA, with some of that luck being in play, but he has consistently been known as a strikeout artist, bouncing between 10 and 15 strikeouts per 9 innings. Of course, when a guy pitches 1 inning at a time, it's a bit less impressive, but when you need someone to get you out of a jam, he has been that guy and can be that guy for the Red Sox. And he averages around 97 miles an hour on the fastball, which is definitely a recipe for success, because I have seen guys who have gotten absolutely demolished on the fastball because it's just not to the plate quickly enough. So he's somebody who can leverage that. And if his fastball velocity is at 97, that's going to be hard for opposing hitters to be able to attack. So there is one issue stemming from that impressive velocity, which is his injury history on the other side of 30, which leaves some questions about the longevity of the remainder of his career. He has had Tommy John twice, once in 2017 before his debut, and another time again in 2021. In between those, he also underwent surgery for thoracic outlet syndrome. There have been just 2 pitchers in history that have pitched following that horrendous trifecta of events, and that's including him. He even had an emergency appendectomy immediately following his return to the mound after his second Tommy John surgery. So, yes, he does have talent, but there's definitely a reason he has only pitched 27 and a third innings in 6 years. So, it's definitely no weird thing to feel a little bit concerned about him because of the injury history and his ability to stay healthy. So, that's something that I'm definitely looking at over the course of the rest of the season. With the Red Sox bullpen being so fried, if you basically took him and just put him in the bullpen, that would be welcome because of the fact that the Red Sox really need change right now. And with the guys going to the IL, like Tanner Houck with the injury that he has, it's nice to be able to change things up a little bit. And if he can stay healthy, which has been tough, like we talked about with the injuries, he can likely match his career major league production in one season and finally show people that he is a force that can be reckoned with, that can sit many guys down on strikes. And that's something that I am looking for over the rest of the season from him, is to just continue to be a strikeout machine. Hopefully he stays healthy. The Red Sox aren't looking at him as somebody we need to live or die depending on. If you're able to rely on him, great. If not, okay, that's okay too. Low risk, high reward, essentially. A guy who works really hard and hopefully can stay healthy and can be a guy who can strike guys out a lot and give the Red Sox an extra boost in the bullpen, which is very much needed. So we'll have to see how he does there. But truly, thank you for tuning into Locked On Red Sox day after day. I know it can be really frustrating with this team, but it means everything to me that you continue to tune in. So, like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.